Few prospects boosted their stock this season as much as Michigan forward Morez Johnson Jr., who transferred from Illinois after playing as a rotation player, had a position change, and turned into one of the most menacing defensive players in the entire draft. Look at this long rotation. He notices that there's going to be a block opportunity before this ball handler even gets all the way beyond the three-point line, but Morez is already seeing this, floating over. Notice how he doesn't just sprint over because he'd be there early. He times up his rotation perfectly, elevates, and swats that shot. And his ability to play make off the ball, to be a help side rim protector, steal getter, playmaker, is the most valuable thing he brings on either end of the court to me, aside from maybe his relentless motor, which of course goes hand in hand with this. He sees another blow by happening, this time makes a shorter rotation, times up his feet, times up that block, and he's been so excellent this year making these weak side rotations, helping out his point of attack defenders. Great job by Elliot Cadeau keeping Isaiah Evans in front, gives Morez time to time up and load up and spike that shot into the stands with his left hand. I'm always impressed by Morez's verticality on these rotations. Look at him go straight up and down, fully vertical. He's not jumping from point A to point B either, which is how you get fouls called. And even though Morez isn't like a center defender, he has some incredible moments defending in disadvantage. And we're going to talk all about Morez Johnson's defense, his projection, his strengths, his weaknesses, and why, to me, it's the foundation of his case as a top 20 pick in this upcoming draft. So let me know what you're thinking of the videos. Like, comment, subscribe would always be so welcome. And I've talked about my defensive film-based grades, or just in general film-based grades. And I have Morez as the 93.9 defensive grade, 6th highest in the class. And when you consider someone like Jordan Scott, one, I have a smaller sample, only 6 games on him. He's not going to declare. Mo Krivas is not a lock to declare. Among players who are locked to declare for the draft, I think you can argue that Morez is one of, if not the best defensive prospect in the class. Probably not better than Caleb Wilson, but ridiculous disadvantage defending. Again, drive happening and starts to step up, but he reads that the ball handler is not trying to drive. He picks up the ball and is going to try to lob it over Morez, anticipating him to step up. So what does Morez do? He uses his gigantic wingspan and explosiveness. It's rare for players to be able to leap from a back pedal like Morez can. You can see how high he gets his feet off the ground, his length tapping that ball. A lot of players really struggle to move backwards and get vertical explosion, but Morez does not. And hey, on that last play, we saw him track back to deflect the lob. Why not track forward and swat it away before it even has a chance to get near the basket? And Morez had so many fun blocks in this FIBA sample where you could just see his incredible athleticism on display. I mostly included these clips just because they're fun and I enjoy them, but I do think Morez is not a primary rim protector prospect, and his lack of height, he is 6'9" as a 4-5 defender, and some of the issues in technique as a rim protector. He is a 20-year-old player after all. He slides down to cover the drive, but notice how he puts his hands straight up in the air. This is one of my biggest pet peeves with rim defenders, just the straight up hands contest. It's not really doing anything unless you are a 7'5 giant or something like his teammate Ademara, and this is a poorly timed contest as well. He gives up his chest before Nick Boyd even goes into his shot. It's super easy for him to draw contact and one right there. And again, I think that's mostly a technique issue for Morez Johnson. I think it's also worth noting how weird the Michigan defensive context is because they play with so many heavy big man centric lineups where you have Morez and lots of like off ball peel switching. He's passing this off and he's going to take Bruce Thornton. And then he doesn't necessarily want to switch Ademara onto a guard, but that's what happens. And obviously the switching defense gets Morez onto a center and he's just not as adept. Again, we see the kind of lazy hands up contesting where it looks like he's just trying to avoid a foul, but in turn ends up actually fouling, and that's not a great rep. And I think Morez is going to be much more ideal in like more aggressive pick and roll coverages. We'll talk about that later. He can deep drop fine, but again, I think that's a coverage more reserved for these very tall, large rim protectors who can take away shots at the basket. Again, you see Morez just kind of standing straight up, tries to block the shot, but sometimes he will inevitably lack the size and reach against NBA defenders, which is why I view him as more of a 4 or 3.5 defender rather than a 5 defender. He's pretty jumpy as well. He'll often bite at pump fakes that he shouldn't, and he ends up fouling there at the basket. Morez's lack of size and some core and lower body strength issues as a 20-year-old player definitely makes him a weaker post defender as well. Oscar Clough easily able to seal him deep in the restricted area, and he's easily turning around, pump fake, drawing a foul. And even when Morez positions himself well in the post, uses his length, sometimes he's simply not going to be big or long enough to make contests. But I think Morez is far from a hopeless post defender. Look at him denying Tomislav Ivis' position. He's trying to catch the ball again on the block, but he ends up catching the ball out near the wing because Morez fights hard, and he's going to contest this drive, keep his feet, end up forcing a really difficult shot. And I think against players who aren't like crazy strong or gigantic, he can hold up a little bit in the post. But the special sauce to me comes with his point of attack perimeter defense, where at 6'8", 6'9", Morez has unusual movement skills. This is a goaltend right here, but he ends up sticking right with Cam Boozer on this invert pick and roll. Notice how quick his feet move. I'm not always crazy about his technique. His feet are often crossing over each other, but he makes up for it with such ridiculous movement skills. Look at him in early offense picking up a point guard with a head of steam, and look how light his feet are. He does not allow any sort of advantage moving his feet. Again, his base is really wide. His footwork and technique are far from perfect, but he's still able to overwhelm matchups. Again, Nick Boyd on a switch, a guy who's probably going to play in the NBA for my money, and he ends up hitting that shot because that's what elite guards do. But Morez is doing his job here as a switch big onto this perimeter player. He's in a terrible spot right here. His knee bend is inward, his leverage is moving this way, the top foot is open to attack, but he swivels his hips open, immediately cuts off Nick Boyd, and forces a very difficult shot that I can't imagine any defensive coach would be upset about that. And when like slower footed bigs try to drive on him, it is over. They have very little hope of separating from Morez. And some of the flashes he's shown as like a point of attack pick and roll defender are ridiculous. He's going to have to evade 2 screens on this play, and Morez has the agility to rip around this handoff, stay in the pocket. There's a rescreen. He rips around that, stays attached, and then he's going to get a stop on the ball right there. Just really rare movement skills, fluidity at the 6'9"-ish height that he's at. Not a perfect point of attack defender by any means. We talked about plenty of the technical issues, and point of attack defense is often really hard to translate to the next level because we don't know the calls. I don't know if Morez is supposed to be funneling baseline and someone here missed the weak side tag or rotation. I don't know if he's supposed to be fighting hard to cut off and not allow that baseline drive, but Morez does allow separation, bump right there, and he ends up getting a wide open layup off of him. And even when Morez does position himself well, he's going to lock up Braden Smith on this initial baseline drive. He jumps at a pump fake just like he can when defending the rim. Great job again. We see he's in a compromised position, a top foot that's easy to attack, but has the rare NBA caliber movement skills and athleticism to recover from these compromised positions. But yeah, just self-inflicted mistakes. I do think most of these are fixable though, and will come with time and experience, gaining awareness to stuff like this. Little plays where he's not as attentive as he needs to be on the potential of this dribble handoff keep action. He's expecting the handoff to come right here. That's what he's playing, but PKR easily spins off, decelerates, and scores. But I do think all of this is stuff that can improve with Morez Johnson. I don't know if he's ever going to be like an elite screen navigator off the ball. You'd think in the NBA he hopefully won't have to chase guards around screens that much, but if he's defending on the perimeter, he might. Another really important utility for Morez that I talked about is his aggressive pick and roll coverage ability. He's not an ideal drop player, but for teams that run aggressive coverages, think the Thunder, the Nets, the Pistons, where one, they like to have their bigs near the level of the screen. Morez has the footwork. He stabs right there. He's able to drop back fluidly. The fluid back pedal is a really hard thing for a lot of big men to do, but if you're going to have Morez trap hard and then recover, he's an excellent player there because of his motor, his length, his intensity, deflects that pass. And aggressive pick and roll coverages are becoming kind of more in vogue in the NBA these days as ball handlers become so unstoppable. Great hands here by Morez, just stabbing the ball in, creating a 50-50 ball. His teammate ends up and goes and get it. Morez is a solid offensive player too. His offense deserves its own video, and it's improved so much, but his crazy athleticism shows up as well. Ridiculous poster over Cam Boozer. I'm not going to talk much about his offense, just show some clips, and he had some really impressive offensive moments in the tournament so far. I'm recording this before the Sweet 16 starts, hitting a corner three. He's really improved as a shooter this year. If we look at Morez's year-to-year improvement, last year at Illinois he shot 0 threes versus 12 of 32 this year. Huge free throw improvement, huge rim finishing improvement, ATO improvement, and this was all while seeing a pretty significant offensive position change. If we look at his Hoop Explorer play style from last year, so much cut and roll, post up, rebound, and scramble. That's pretty much all of it. Whereas if you look at the Michigan, it's a ton of transition, inside out, a lot of perimeter cutting, which he didn't do a ton. So he's had to really adapt his game this year. And I think the fact that he's been able to do so, he's improved his handle a little bit. He can attack off the catch, and his playmaking has improved quite a bit as well. He's improved his footwork. Great job spinning on the catch, drawing a foul right there with the and one. And Morez, like I said, has really improved as a passer. He can hit these post skips as well. I have some hope for him as a connective playmaker that I didn't think was as strong as a freshman. This was a ridiculous pass, wrapping it around a defender to hit Ademara. But the reason you're drafting Morez Johnson Jr. is for his defense. I don't even know if he's a lock to declare for the draft this year since he is only a sophomore, but I would happily take him in the top 20 for the right team. If you need a forward wingy defender who you probably need a real center to play next to him like Ademara or whoever, but if you're a team like, I don't know, the Spurs with Wemby, and you just want a strong, physical, high motor four who not only has all these like traditional big man intangibles, but has the rare movement skills to bring coverage versatility that's usually beyond his archetype as a switch and blitz trap hedge big, you're going to be eating good. He's just one of my favorite players to watch this year. Has been so much fun, and I really think he deserves more love as a prospect. So let me know what you think of Morez Johnson, and how high are you on him? Do you have Michigan to win it all behind him like I do? Like, comment, and subscribe would always be so appreciated, and have a nice day.